Morning, Rabbi.
Yes, Joseph Sadik. Good morning. Thank you. That means Mara sent it out to the group.
Yes, he did. I
Okay.
also for a few people.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're going to get started. Yeah. Okay. Lamed Chesem Beis, right? 38b. We were finishing the Gemara. We're finishing the Gemara. We're about when the lines get wide. Everybody have it? We'll look at Va'od Amar Rav Chia bar Abba. Second wide line. Right, you have it? Va'od Amar Rav Chia bar Abba. Everyone have it? Mr. Habe got it? 38b. Ariel, would you be able to fix the screen, Ariel, that I see double going on over here, if you don't mind? Morris, you have it, 38b? Mr. Habe, 38b. Yeah, I see this and I see that. No, yeah, it's just this. No. Okay. 38b. They bring another proof that the bracha on the cooked vegetables, it doesn't lose its status. It still would be hadama. From Odom Rav Chia bar Abba, and Ira Isias Rabbi Yochanan, I saw Rabbi Yochanan, she'ochal zayis maliyah. Rabbi Yochanan ate an olive that was salted. That they salted the olive, and it remained in its salt for a while. And the salting process is similar to the heat of the salt, is similar to cooked. And yet we say, and yet what happened? Ubarach Allah tchila. And he said a bracha before he ate it, and which is obvious. He says a bracha before you eat, you say a bracha. And also Besof, he said a bracha, but the point here is he said a bracha both before he ate the olive and both after he ate the olive. So now, so what does that prove anything? So the Gemara explains the following. He amrit bishlama shalkut b'mosayu kaimi, that when you cook a food, it retains the same bracha. So then it's the same food. We look at it, right? The question here in the Gemara was, when you're cooking, does the cooking remove the status of the fruit, that it's no longer classified as a fruit? It's altered to another type of product. Would it lose the bracha of Borei Pri Adama or Borei Pri Eish as a result of the cooking? Right? That was the discussion yesterday, correct, Mr. Haber? So now the Gemara says that we found that he said a bracha, the rabbi said a bracha before he ate this zayis, right? We have a report about Rabbi Yochanan. This is a report from Rabbi Chia bar Abba. We know he's a He's the one that the Gemara said is very careful in the way he observes his rabbi, and he watches everything, and he's very exact. And he has a report, he has a testimony that his rabbi ate an olive, one olive. It's important to note, one olive. The Gemara will focus on this point a little later. He ate an olive that was salted, which the Gemara says salting is like cooking in a sense, because the salting process, the heat of the salting has some sort of transformation of the food a little bit, in a certain sense. And yet he said a what? A bracha both in the beginning and at the end. Now the Gemara explains the following. If you say that the cooking, it retains its status as a fruit. What was the bracha that he said before he had the olive? He said a borei pri eitz. And at the end, bracha achat mein shalosh. He said that bracha achat mein shalosh. Everyone knows what that bracha achat mein shalosh is? It's called bracha achat. It's one bracha that's me'ein, that resembles three brachot. Three brachot refers to the Birkat HaMazon. Birkat HaMazon originally was a three bracha. It originally contained three brachot. The Shemona Esrei originally contained 18 brachot. Then the Shemona Esrei was added. Later on they added the bracha lamalshinim. So you got credit for 19 brachot today in Amidah, correct? So Birkat HaMazon originally had three brachot. Eventually, Birkat HaMazon, they added later on the bracha of what? Which bracha? Everybody knows what bracha they added. What was the latest addition to Birkat HaMazon? The bracha Tova HaMeitiv. The fourth bracha was added later. So therefore, the al hamichya that we say when we have cake, or if we have from grapes or olives, we say al ha'etz. The after bracha is al ha'etz. That mirrors the bracha of the Birkat HaMazon. It has within it. That's why it's called me'ein shalosh. It's a mini version of the three brachot of Birkat HaMazon. Right? Is that clear, Morris? The bracha. That's why it's called me'ein shalosh. Mr. Haber, is that clear? Now, therefore, he would say the bracha if the fruit, retains its status. So what's the bracha on an olive, on a regular olive? You didn't salt the olive. You say borei pri eitz before you eat olives, and then you say ala eitz. You say one of those, the longer bracha achrona. It's not Birkat HaMazon. It's the same way you call something al hamichya on cake. The only difference is you say the same bracha you say on cake, you say on olive, the after bracha, except instead of saying Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam al hamichya v'al ha'chalav, you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam al ha'etz v'al pri ha'etz. Everybody with me? Everybody knows this is clear, right? And then at the end also, instead of saying no l'chal ha'aretz al hamichya, say no l'chal al ha'etz v'al pri ha'etz, al peris, whatever the language is. You just, instead of saying the insert on you say on mezonos, you say the insert on, same thing when you have wine. You say ala gefen, you say ala gefen, pri gefen. The bracha, the after bracha on wine, you say havdalah on Motzei Shabbat, right? You drink 3 ounces in havdalah. You don't have to technically, to fill havdalah, you don't have to drink 3 ounces, but you should drink 3 ounces to avoid getting into between the 1 ounce and 3 ounce gray zone. We said it's a question whether you have to say a bracha after bracha on a drink if you're between 1 and 3 ounces, correct? So how do you avoid that? You have 3 ounces, minimum of 3 ounces when Motzei Shabbat. And therefore, what do you do right after you make Havdalah? The man who makes Havdalah, what is he supposed to do right after Havdalah? Say the ala gefen, because he had 3 ounces. If he didn't have 3 ounces, he won't say ala gefen. So that's the bracha he made, the bracha me'ein shalosh on the olives. Okay. But the Gemara says, if you say that on cooked vegetables, the after bracha, if you say on cooked vegetables, it loses its status. If you say the cooking removes it from the status of the original fruit, so then you should not say, then the bracha achrona should not be al ha'etz. It shouldn't be this bracha of, because why? Because if it alters it, so then what would be the bracha rishona? If it alters it, right? Instead of saying a borei pri eitz, what will we say on this olive? Asher hakol niyeh b'varo. Asher hakol niyeh b'varo, you do not, and the Gemara is thinking at this point, Asher hakol niyeh b'varo, You do, and since it's not fish or meat, you will not say any after bracha. That's what the Gemara is thinking. So how could the rabbi say any after bracha? The only way he could say it after bracha if the bracha that preceded the eating was a borei priya eitz. Mr. Haber, is that clear? So that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, in the beginning, he'll start off with a borei priya eitz, and at the end, he'll say bracha achad mein shalosh. He'll say the special after bracha of ala eitz, val priya eitz, val nuvasasad, val eschem tov v'chava. Good morning, Mike.
Rabbi, good morning.
Morning. If you say that when you cook the food, it alters it from being its fruit, and therefore you would make a shahakol on it. So then, so Bishlam B'tchila, so if I would understand, he would say a shahakol before he eats it. What's the bracha that he said afterwards? If it's a fruit that was altered and it's a shakol, the Gemara is thinking at this point that on fruit you don't the Gemara is thinking you don't say burn the fashot. There are opinions that say that burn the fashot is not, you would not say on fruits, on vegetables, only on what? On meat, chicken, eggs. Those type of things that come from live animals, it would seem. That seems like the common denominator. Like borei nefashot rabot. You created many different nefashot, many different people, living creatures, nefashot rabot. So that's animals and so on and so forth. So maybe that might be behind that. Maybe you would have thought, therefore, the Gemara says, what's the bracha achronah? There's no bracha achronah. The Gemara was thinking of on things that are shehakol, that are things that are hadama, that are not eggs or chicken or meat. The Gemara is thinking you don't say a burn of fashot on those things. And the Gemara answers, Dilma burn of fashot. Maybe he held like the opinion that says that you do say burn of fashot on items that are fruits and vegetables, even though they're not fish, meat, and chicken. And you should know that's the halacha. Now, halacha is you have an apple, you have an orange, you have vegetables, you have salad. The same way you say a burn of fashot on eggs, and also you'll say burn of fashot on a drink of water. You'll say burn of fashot on a drink of soda, a drink of oranges. You'll say burn of fashot on all those things. Burn of fashot is not limited to chicken, fish, eggs. Burn of fashot is and and therefore I believe burn of fashot is a bracha that's really under the radar. I think I'm afraid to say that not enough people are very careful and exact. That they have every time they have something, you drink a soda, drink of water, drink of something or whatever. Every time, so everybody careful. Whatever, having a snack and having an apple and orange, everyone careful to say the bracha afterwards. I think we have to. I'm not sure if everybody's careful. That's not talking about here in the room. I'm talking about in general. And maybe Ariel is going to bring an awareness to everybody, right, Ariel? You go to a kiddush on Shabbat. People eat at a kiddush on Shabbat. Definitely, at the end of the day, you're going to have to say a burn because people have a drink of something, have a drink of soda, drink of water. Right. So usually, as long as you have, let's say we talk about a salad, as long as you have the salad within 7 minutes. I mean, everyone, if a guy goes ahead and gets some salad, you eat salad, you eat an ounce within 7 minutes. What are people eating at the kiddush? You have some chicken at a kiddush. I don't know if you have a little meat at the kiddush. I don't know what they're serving at the kiddush. And by the Ashkenazim, they serve kugel, potato kugel. Everyone's eating the normal way of eating. You eat it within 7 minutes. You eat an ounce. People are not nibbling on it. They're not taking a little bite and they stop and they wait minutes. So therefore, a guy has a drink. If you drink, within a couple, you drink right away. In normal drinking, you drink a few ounces. If you drink 3 ounces like this, you're in a normal way. You say burn the fashot. You have to say burn the fashot. So I don't know if people are sensitive enough to it. Ariel's going to help me find out. Ariel, going to give Ariel homework You see, it's going to make sure. But I think not only am I concerned about the bracha afterwards, I want to know if everybody's saying the bracha before they eat or drink. Am I right? Is that a concern? And not only what? They think the kiddush covers all the brachot that you say it. I think the rabbi says bar pei geffen. You hear that, Morris? Ariel says something interesting. I mean, technically, if you're eating any, I mean, there are those that say as long as you're eating anything, you have to have a kazayit of cake or kazayit or a viet of wine.
Rabbi, the
Hold on one second. Ariel's asking something. What? And who drinks the? Or they could have 3 ounces of wine if they want. Some will say that also would work. Some will say, right. What do you want to say? But what do you want to say? Hold on one second. Yosef, we're coming back in 1 second. Yes. Zayit of Mizona. No, there are those that say, I'll tell you what you're saying. There are those that say, in order, if you, but there are those that say if you don't have an adequate, right. But what Mr. Haber is saying that there are those opinions that say that they explain Ein Kiddush Ela B'Mokum Suda. Kiddush, and it has to be where you're having the meal. Now, so therefore, in order for you to partake in Kiddush and to eat anything, you have to have the Kiddush has to be connected to a meal. Now, technically, if you have a kazayit of mezonot, it'll be, of course, you still have to have less of mishneh. You have to still have, but you could technically fulfill that idea that of the kiddush. Kiddush has to be said over something important, or kiddush has to be. So if you have it has to be kiddush where the meal is. So if you have an ounce of cake, we'll consider that in a certain sense like a meal, and therefore in that aspect, and therefore you're allowed to drink eat at that item. But if you don't have a kazayit of mezonot, or some say that 3 ounces of wine is like, it fills you up like a meal, and therefore, if you don't have that, you can't partake at all. There are others that say, Ramosha Feinstein has a leniency. He says, even if you would not have a kazayit of mezonot, you would not have a 3 ounces of wine, you could partake, but then you have to make kiddush again later on. That's what he says. And Moshe Feinstein says that if a person goes to a kiddush and he does not plan on having a kazayit of cake, and he does not plan on having 3 ounces of wine, you know, we need to do the plug, or else we're gonna I'll lose everybody over here. It's a few different go on. Thank you very much.
by the way, Rabbi, you're not recording. It doesn't look like it's recorded,
It says live on YouTube.
but you don't recording it. Doesn't
You want
look
that?
like. Normally it show us if it's recording or not, you know?
Okay, 1 second. Let me just plug it in over here. 1 second. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so Again, we clarified that point, that, what was? Right. Mezonot, or 3 ounces of wine. If it didn't have that, so some say you can't eat or drink at all. Kiddush again. That we all agree. You can't have anything at all. Right. But you still have to say Kiddush again later on. It just allows you. Right. 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 Some say you should not. You're not allowed to. Some say you're not allowed to, and he gives the allowance. Kiddush. I haven't heard that distinction. I'm not saying that, Mr. Haber is saying that he heard from someone that this allowance of Moshe Feinstein is more in the shul, but maybe he wouldn't allow it so much in the house, this allowance. Okay, could be. But if you could find out about that, because the logic, what I recall, the logic is that it's called but the fact that you heard Kiddush, it gives you an allowance to eat, even though you might not be able to fulfill the requirement of Kiddush and Sudah. And therefore, you could eat now, but then later you have to make the Kiddush, you have to make it. So to say that, I never heard that distinction, but Mr. Haber, you can have some homework to do, and you'll do the homework that with the Cheerios too, Mr. Haber. Okay, you got 2 things of homework. We say Cheerios is definitely a Mazonot for everybody. I can't imagine there'll be a difference in Sfard and Ashkenazim, but I would love for you to ask. You have nothing, only to win and not to lose. Good morning, Shmuel Rav. Yes. Good morning, Shmuel. Yosef at Tzaddik wanted to say something. Yosef, do you remember what you wanted to say?
I'm
sorry,
trying to
it was a long time
remember,
ago.
yes.
Okay, maybe as we learn, you'll remember. So the Gemara says the following. Thank you very much, Ariel. So the Gemara says, and remember, we had that Tosfot earlier that says, what does Borei Nefashot Rabot mean? We just learned the Gemara. You have to remember every time you say, and I think if people will remember the translation, then it will help them in appreciating the bracha. Borei Nefashot Rabot, Hashem creates all different types of nefashot, all different types of human beings, living things, humans, and it's probably also referring to animals, all different nefashot, all different living things. V'chesronan. And I think that primarily we're focusing on human beings. But Chesronan, and God creates the things that they're lacking, that they need for basic living. Tosfos says. Chesronan means a chesaron, what you're lacking, what you're missing. Bread, water, the basics of life. We're thanking God for the basics of life. Not only are we thanking for the basics of life, we're thanking God for the things that come as a something with delicacies, things that we don't really need in order to live, which means to say we don't need fruits to live. We can live without fruits. We can live the basic necessities of life is bread and water. But this bracha is generally for food, for things that are not, it's also for water too. But this bracha is also emphasizing, we're thanking God for the things that we don't need, that God just gives us certain things for our pleasure. That's what Tosfos says. Everything that he created to give a little extra life to the person, extra enjoyment to the person.
Rabbi.
He has to have a minimum amount. There is an opinion, and we'll see soon. There's an opinion that says burn the nefashot does not require an amount in order to say burn the nefashot, even less than, but we don't pass it that way. We say you have to have a kazayit, you have to have if it's a solid, you have to have 1 ounce of solid, and if it's a liquid, you have to have 3 ounces. Right. Say Birkas Hamazon. This exactly the same thing for Ala Michya also. Same way Ala
Rabbi,
Michya. Yes. Yes.
so when you do the blessing on the wine, is that also poter from doing shakol on any liquid?
Yes. Blessing a wine with poter, but sometimes there are certain rules on that you have to look at in the halacha. The question is, how much wine do I need to drink? Meaning, if the bracha borbe gefen will exempt liquids. But right, if I have in front of me, I have wine, I have water, I have soda. I'm at a kiddush. I make kiddush. Do I have to make a bracha? I don't. If I'm having, for sure, if I'm having a revi'it of the wine, if I'm having 3 ounces of the wine, it will exempt the liquid. I don't have to make a bracha on the liquid. There's a whole discussion. I think if I have a very small amount of the wine, would a small amount of the wine? Here we have the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Berurah. What if I drink a small amount of wine, or less than a mole lugmav, less than a majority of revi'it? I think there are those that say that if you have a majority of revi'it, let's say almost 2 ounces, some say that also would cover other liquids. Meaning, if I have soda and I had 1.5 ounce, 1 3/4 ounces of wine, and I had soda. Some say that also would cover. But let's say I had a very small amount of wine. I just tasted the wine, right? The rabbi made kiddush. I had a little cup. I had a small little thing. So I think that is a matter of discussion.
Also, Rabbi.
With the wine, exactly. Yes.
Also, is the one who's doing the blessing is kind of obligated to finish more than half of what the wine been in the cup for blessing, or I know you can give it to someone next to him to finish it, but is the obligation to finish more than half of the cup or 3/4?
I don't think there's an obligation. No, he's not obligated to do that, but I definitely recommend it to drink. I would say it's definitely recommended to drink majority of the coast. I would think definitely should be recommended. If we look at the Shulchan Aruch, we'll take out the Shulchan Aruch on that. Reish Ayin Aleph. You look at the Shulchan Aruch where he discusses Kiddush, right? So he says on Kiddush, he says you have to drink a majority of Revi'it. Now, what does the Mishnah Berurah say? Let's see what Ravadia says on that. Reish Ayin Aleph. Let's see if he says. Reish Ayin Aleph. Okay, well, I'll get back to you exactly. Obviously, but definitely you have to be careful at least to drink 1.5, 1 3/4 ounces. You should be careful to drink on kiddush. You should be careful at least that. The question is, should you be careful to drink more than that or not? We'll have to see more about that, Yosef. Here he says, you should drink from the wine mole lugmav, a cheeks full, which is considered a majority of revi'it, about a little over 1.5 ounces. He doesn't say more than that, at least over here. That's why you have to be careful to drink at least 1.5 ounces. All right, Yosef?
Yeah.
To cover kiddush, right? To cover kiddush. Kiddush. cheekful, right, right. So he says, right, and he says, and the Rabbi Yosef says, if the guy who made kiddush did not have 1.5 ounces, but one of the members that he made kiddush for had that, so he will satisfy. It's not lechatchila, it's not the ideal way to do it, but after the fact, you'll be covered.
I think you have to have in mind who is going to drink it too. If you're not planning to drink it, for whatever reason, you have to have in mind a designated drinker, what we call.
Right, you should have a designated. In that case, if for some reason there's a situation, so I would be better that the designated drinker should make the kiddush. But if for some reason that designated drinker is not going to make in the kiddush, so you should make sure that one of the people should drink a mole lugmav. But he says, but if the one who made kiddush or the other people tasted only a little bit of the wine, even if one of them did not have 1.5 ounces, technically, he says you still will fill the mitzvah. There's like 3 levels. He says technically, what's the ideal? The ideal is the one who says kiddush. The way to go is the one who says kiddush. Rabbi, how should I do it? Drink at least 1.5 ounces. I mean, we know Friday night you can make kiddush on bread. I'm asking, we Ashkenaz, I don't know about Sodom. We Ashkenaz will not make kiddush on bread Shabbat morning. You would use ideally we use wine, but let's say if you don't have wine, you would use beer for Havdalah. You could use, you have your stuff. Then you have a, right. Chamam, but they're not an important beverage of the country. So maybe if you do it on whiskey, I mean, to have 3 ounces, you have it, take a glass, fill up a thing of whiskey and drink an ounce of the whiskey. Saturday night, right. Ideally, maybe an ounce and a half of the whiskey. Majority of it. Because we see. I'll tell you what, because we see Shabbat morning, we see there are people that they're Hasidim that make kiddush on whiskey Shabbat morning, and the same way they make kiddush on it. Technically, again, it's not ideal, but I'm not ideal for Havdalah, but I don't see the difference between whiskey. The people who use whiskey on Shabbat morning for kiddush, I don't see why they shouldn't be able to use. Whiskey is called a drink of, I would think it's an important drink. It's a drink of the country, something unique. People go out for a drink, right? So therefore, I don't, if you allow if people who use whiskey on Shabbat morning should be able to use whiskey, okay, they might be more strict about it, meaning to say, they might say that whiskey, Motzei Shabbat, they're going to try to avoid, they'll try to do wine, like Friday night. Why? Maybe perhaps because Havdalah, the recital of Havdalah is a machloket, it's Havdalah min Torah, it's Havdalah min Rabbanan. It's a machloket. Kiddush Friday night is min Torah. So maybe we treat it with a higher level, and maybe we do it on wine. Shabbat morning Kiddush is Rabbanan. I don't know if maybe that's a good question. I think the Sfardim would rely on the bread in that case. No, I don't think so. you just want to prove from the fact that okay, we'd have to see more about it. But right, but I would think that the ruling would be Chama Medina. I would think if a guy does not, the question is, what does a guy do by Havdalah? If a guy does not have wine for Havdalah, that's your question, right? With liquor, with this, I mean, would liquor work, right? I would think yes, liquor should work for Havdalah. I would say it's a beverage of the country. Then Havdalah Alayayin, Reish Sadik Vav. I don't think I don't think so. Okay. He says if you don't have wine for Havdalah, you cannot use bread. You can't substitute bread.
Rabbi,
Yes.
even for Havdalah, you don't must to drink Revit for the wine.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sammy. Good morning, Sammy.
The Havdalah also you should also drink this cheeks full.
The cheeks full, and with the cheeks full you do Alam Yahya.
Very good. So that's what I want to clarify. But because if you drink a cheeks full, then you get into a gray area, because 1.5 ounces is a gray area, because you didn't have 3 ounces. Therefore, the Yalkut Yosef says, therefore, drink l'chatchila, when it comes to Havdalah, drink 3 ounces. Because you want to avoid getting into that gray area. I said a cheekful is adequate to fulfill the mitzvah of Havdalah. But when in the cheekful is adequate to fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush. So that's called, you did 1.5 ounces, you fulfilled the mitzvah of Kiddush and you fulfilled Havdalah. But on Shabbat Kiddush, after you have Kiddush, you go to wash on bread. Correct? So now, there's no question of bracha achrona on that wine. Meaning you didn't get yourself into any question, do I say ala gefen on 1.5 ounces or not? Because I'm going to have bread and I'm going to say birkat hamazon at the end. However, when I go on Motzei Shabbat, when I have Havdalah, after Havdalah, what do? I'm not washing on bread right away after Havdalah. I say Havdalah and I'm going and I'm doing whatever I need to do. So now, even if I can fulfill the mitzvah of Havdalah by drinking 1.5 ounces, but I got myself into a different issue. I open myself up. Now, do I have to say ala gefen on 1.5 ounces? The answer is no. But there are opinions that say that on 1.5 ounces, you do say ala gefen, because there are opinions that say between 1 ounce and 3 ounces, it's a gray area. Meaning to say, when it comes to a solid, how much do we have to eat of a salad to make a bracha achrona? You too, Sammy. A kazayid. 1 ounce of a salad. How much do I need to drink in order to say a bracha achrona? So that's a machloket. Do I need to drink? Is a kazayid 1 ounce also enough to say bracha achrona on a drink? Or do I have to drink a reviyit, 3 ounces to say bracha achrona? So if I enter between 1 and 3 ounces, I am in a gray area for bracha achrona. So Mike, is that clear? If I drink between 1 and 3 ounces, it's not. It's a machloket whether I say, and therefore safik brachot lokel, I will not say a bracha achrona on a drink unless I have 3 ounces.
So we're still not good. It's actually worse, Rabbi. I'm sorry, but maybe it's not good, because it's better to drink less than a full cheek, and for sure you don't have to do, right?
No, yeah, but you have a different problem. But if you drink less than a full cheek, then you didn't. You see, Havdalah has its own thing, meaning there's different issues on the table. This Havdalah, how much am I supposed to drink for the Havdalah? So the cheeks full. The cheeks full is the requirement, is what I need to drink for Havdalah. And once I covered Havdalah by having a cheeks full, but now I entered a different issue, a left field issue. What's the left field issue? Do I say a bracha achrona on that cheeks full?
So Rabbi,
so in order to avoid that, you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Abraham? So but we don't. But we
No,
want
Rabbi,
to
I'm
avoid.
sorry, 1 second. So my question is this. So in order to fulfill the mitzvah of the Havdalah, you must drink a cheek full of wine. You cannot drink less than that. You cannot just do Havdalah, take a sip and put the cup down. You cannot do that.
L'chatchila, you should not do that. I mean, Rabbi Vadia says if you did not drink a majority of Revi'it, he says, definitely you shouldn't do it. That's not the way to do it. Havdalah, but you have now a different Al-Gefen, right? You entered into a different area of concern now. Now I want to know, what do I say bracha achronah? And if I only have 1.5 ounces, I am now entered into a place of safek. And in order to the safek, but we say, what the Al-Gefen? Again, you, Mr. Haber, because it's true, you're right. At the end of the day, if you entered into the safek, you will not say Al-Gefen. You're correct. But you should not create the situation of safek if you could avoid it. Meaning you should not go ahead and bring yourself, I'm going to drink 1.5 ounces and that's it. Because what you've done, it's true. If that's the end of the day, that's what you did, you don't say a bracha on it. But don't put yourself into a place where there are those opinions that say you are required to say Al-Gefen. So try to avoid that issue. And therefore, how do you avoid it? By drinking a revi'it, drink of 3 ounces. And therefore, you removed yourself from a question.
So two full chicks full of chicks, whatever it is, because it's 1.5 times 2.
Right. 3 ounces. That's the way you should go ahead and drink. That's like in order that you should be able to say Al-Gefen. But at the end of the day, for some reason, the guy has a situation in life that he's not allowed, or the doctor doesn't let him. He has a reason why he can't do more than 1.5. So that is, I don't know if that's, I don't know if that, he doesn't like it. Right. Reveal. What do you mean to wait? How would you wait? I don't think it's a good idea to wait. In that situation, we'll probably just have that 1.5 ounce. Okay. Mike, you had some question, Mike?
I think yeah. My only question was if you must drink one, and so it's back to my original question. You really have to drink the 3 ounces in Havdalah.
Right. You should drink. That's what Ravadia says. Lechatchila. I'll read you the language in the Yalkut Yosef. Lechatchila tov. It is good. Sheyishteh, to drink mekos Havdalah revi'at yayin. It is good. It's a good practice. In order that you should be able to say the bracha achrona on the wine. So therefore, you want to have a situation on Motzei Shabbat that you're going to drink enough that you'll be able to say a bracha achrona. He goes so far to say, if you're not able to drink, okay, well that's that point. Okay. That person will have. Right. Right. Okay, let's continue in the Gemara. The Gemara says, let's see, we're up to. Mosiv Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel. Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel, 4 lines from the bottom. You have it, Mike? Mosiv Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel. Hey, you got it? 4 lines from the bottom? First word is Libisof. Libisof. Motiv Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel. Found it? Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel asked the following question. The vegetables that you're able to use to fulfill your mitzvah of Morah on Pesach, you can fill your obligation by using the leaves of the vegetables, the leaves of the, let's say, the romaine lettuce, the kalach shelahem, the stalk. You could fill the mitzvah by the stalk, either the leaves or the stalk. Of a lo kvushim, but not if they're pickled. If you pickle them in vinegar, you soak them in vinegar, you cannot fulfill your mitzvah of maror with it soaked in vinegar. Similarly, lo shlukin, not if you cook the lettuce. You cook them a heavy cooking, you cannot fulfill your mitzvah of what? Of what? Of what? So the question is why. So the Gemara is of the mitzvah of maror.
Of maror.
So the Gemara says, what do we see? We see that if it's very well cooked, it alters it. We say it's not the fruit, it's not no longer the priya. It seems that it's not the priya dama, it's not maror anymore. And you told me before that even if you cook the vegetable, it retains them, it's still considered the fruit, it's still considered the vegetable. And here we see that you cook the maror, it loses the status of maror. So that's what the Gemara's question is. It's a question of what we said before. Do we see the cooking changes it? That's the Gemara's question. So, and therefore, if the cooking changed it, it's not good for Moro. So most probably the bracha would be a shako. It's no longer hadama. So how you tell me if you cook the vegetable, it retains the bracha hadama? So the Gemara says Moro is different. It's not about that the vegetable was changed. That's not the reason that the vegetable is changed. Maybe it's still not. It's still a vegetable.
It needs to be. What's the word in English?
Bitter. You have to feel the
bitterness.
bitterness.
Exactly. It needs to be bitter.
And when you
cook it, it takes away the bitterness.
Right. Good morning, Shmuel. Exactly. The cooking takes away the
Good
bitterness.
Morning, Shmuel.
Right. I'm saying
Good morning.
it still could be hadama. It could still be hadama, but right, it's not. Yes, the operative, it's not dependent. The maror is not dependent on that it's a bar hadama.
Rabbi, we all good morning. We all good morning to Mr. Aber. Mr. Aber, we owe him good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Haber, Mike says good morning to you. He says good morning always. So it means he's saying good morning now, and that covers for all the future.
Okay, good. Me too.
So Mr. Haber points out it's not about the hadama. It has to have the taste of marah. And through the heavy cooking with all that water, waters it down, and it takes away. So that's what they want. Shani hatam, tam marah v'lek. We need to be ina tam marah. We need the taste of marah and leka, and we don't have the taste of the marah as a result of the cooking of the marah. Okay, what do you want to say? That's right. So, and therefore, though, there's even halacha that says bala mara, you're not yotzei. If a person will go ahead and stick the mara with let's say a type of stick down your throat, and you don't taste the mara, you don't taste the bitterness, lo yatsa. You did not fulfill your mitzvah. I ate mara, but you didn't taste the mara because the guy took a stick and he stuck it down your throat. But when it comes to matzah, you can, if bala matzah yotza, matzah, it's not about that taste, the feeling, that bitterness. Matzah, it's matzah. You ate matzah. So even if you didn't feel the taste, you feel the mitzvah of what? Of matzah. Right now, but it has to be matzah. And therefore we had a Gemara before. If you cooked it, maybe it's altered. Maybe it's not matzah. That's a different question. Or it might have the qualities of the matzah. But technically, it's not about that physical taste that like we have by the Morah. You have to feel that taste, that level taste. Have a great day. Great Shabbat. We'll be on 10 o'clock on Zoom on Sunday. All the best. Good to see everybody.
Rabbi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. You too, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbat
Thank you.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shmuel, Yosef Atzadik.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Take care.
Rabbi Friedman, I'm upstate.
Oh, enjoy.
I'm
Bring the
near,
Torah.
I'm near some of your Talmidim, probably.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Bring it to Torah to upstate. The Torah. We need the Torah all. Imbechu kosai telechu. You have to. The Orach Chaim says 42 pshatim in Imbechu kosai telechu. 42 pshatim. You have to take the Torah wherever you go. Imbechu kosai telechu. Take it wherever you go.
Hey, you already have Talmidim up here.
Who do you have? Who do I have there?
Bethel, no? Bethel.
Remind me, what's Bethel?
Who's upstate? You have some Talmidim upstate New York.
Oh, yeah. Yosef is upstate. We have Woodstock. We have Tannersville.
There you go.
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. They were on. Take care. Shabbat Shalom, Shmuley. All the best.